Chris has asked a soft rev limiter versus hard rev limiter and possible damage. Okay, so I think probably the bigger thing that you're maybe getting to here is the way a rev limiter is integrated. So generally there's two ways of an ECU applying a rev limit, and these are either through fuel cutting or through ignition cutting. Now on top of that, we do, as you've mentioned, have a soft rev limiter and a hard rev limiter. So how this works is we'll have a point in the engine rev range where the ECU will begin what's called soft cutting, soft limiting, soft rev limiting. So that's where it starts to begin the rev limiting process. So it may just be applying a very small amount of cutting to either fuel or ignition, depending how it's set up at that point. Now, if you are only just coming onto the rev limiter, so you're just coming up to it and touching it, it's probably not going to take very much ignition or fuel cut in order to control the RPM and stop it rising. If on the other hand you're got an engine that's producing a lot of power and you really aggressively hit that rev limiter under wide open throttle and full power, the soft cut will probably not be enough to control the engine RPM, and it will continue to rise. And this is where the hard cut comes in. So this may be perhaps 100 or 200 RPM higher than the soft cut, and at this point all of the fuel or all of the ignition is completely switched off to make sure that the RPM can't overshoot any further. So that's the difference between soft limiting and hard limiting. However, what I touched on there was the difference between fuel and ignition cutting. Ignition cutting can be quite a dangerous option, particularly on engines where there are known valve train issues. So a really classic example of this is the Nissan SR20 DET. If we're using ignition cutting there for our rev limiter, what's going to happen is when the ignition is cut, we're going to end up with a full cylinder full of unburnt fuel and air pass through the cylinder because it's not igniting inside the cylinder, and it can end up igniting in the exhaust manifold. Now, what happens there is this can be sufficient to create a large pressure spike inside the exhaust manifold, which in turn can be enough to pop the exhaust valves back open off their seat. And in turn, this can also upset the valve train. It can pop rockers off and generally achieve all sorts of nasty stuff that we really don't want happening. So definitely the safer option in most instances is to use fuel cutting.
If you want to know more about EFI tuning, click the link in the video description to take our free 6-part series of lessons that will show you the fundamentals behind EFI tuning.